Hi, I'm Mauricio, and my evolution inquiry project was on Carcharodon carchitis. Sorry if I said it wrong. So to begin, I can introduce the organism through its taxonomic classification. I skipped kingdom, phylum, and subphylum, so I began with the class of Chondrichthyes, the order of lamniforms, the family of Lamnidae, the genus of Carcharodon, and the species of Carcharodon carchitis. Some brief descriptions can be its habitat, which is mainly found in temperate tropical regions and primarily in coastal biomes. So you can find them in the coasts of California, Lower Alaska, Greece, Australia, Japan, etc. And they have a preference of sea surface temperature between 59 and 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And the diet depends based on the organism's age or state of either being an adult or a young. Young white sharks feed on small animals, so small fish, squid, stingrays, and in some occurrences, other small sharks. And these food habits change into adulthood, which is predominantly sea lions, seals, dolphins, etc. So Carcharodon carcharis is also known as the great white shark. And in this picture, you can actually see one of its most famous hunting techniques, which is going under the prey and using his adaptive coat of black on top to be less likely to be seen, and then jumping on top to get in its prey. And talking about adaptations, we'll be talking about the electroreception that is found in great white sharks. Electroreception is essentially used by great white sharks to detect nearby prey by feeling or detecting electrical fields expressed by the prey, which can be made by muscles, by their brain, by the organs, etc. In it, this adaptation is actually considered to be one of the most advanced abilities by mammals, by animals. Sorry, and some scientists um, believe that this electroreception actually helps great white sharks navigate through the ocean using quote a electrical map to which uses the Earth's magnetic field to guide the shark, and scientists believe it can tie into migration. And in this picture, we can actually see the electroreceptors, or actually called the ampullae of Rosencini, which are the black spots that are seen in the front of the shark. Moving on to the fossil records. So the fossil records for sharks, sorry, is very difficult to study since sharks are part of the Chondrichthyes fish, or cartilaginous fish, sorry. So they have no skeletons. I mean, they have skeletons, but their skeletons are made out of cartilage. And as we know, it's already hard to become a fossil, to be preserved and be buried quickly and stuff like that. And cartilage is very delicate and disintegrates very easily. So most of the fossil records for sharks, including great white sharks, are his teeth, which makes shark phylogeny a very highly debated topic in the science community, due to only teeth being the guide to understanding their history. For example, the the previous idea of megalodon being an ancestor of the great white shark, which was proved to be wrong later on. And interestingly, this picture is from one of the papers I reviewed that talked about how um, finding a complete jaw set of teeth is actually very uh, like revealing for in regards to fossil records of shark, since it tells a lot about how they behaviors, such as how much they ate and stuff like that. And then the biogeography. So as I mentioned, their habitat is usually temperate and tropical regions. So with this said, you can um, assume that the latitude would be 60 north, to 60s latitude. The map I showed here is actually the entire coverage of those latitudes combined. So it's overall a very large area, and it's considered to be one of the greatest ranges of most marine mammals, actually. And satellite tracking showed migrations across entire ocean basins, which we can connect to the idea of the electroreception, which uses the Earth's magnetic fields to help guide the sharks. And this can tie into that. And it's also, there's no location considered to be common to find a great white shark, so they're spread pretty out throughout. And some of their isolating mechanisms currently was seen through a study that closely observed populations and considered them to be independent demographically, which demonstrated intrinsic reproductive behaviors, which made them only reproduce essentially with their own groups, decreasing diversity and having a low population. So low population, oh sorry, I skipped ahead. So which also showed genetic bottleneck between the populations due to being such small population, sorry, and human activity such as hunting or the sharks getting caught in nets causes that low population. So if we think of low population and intrinsic behaviors, we can think of low diversity. Plus, the authors also mentioned inbreeding, which even decreases the diversity even further. And some adaptive radiation. So sharks have undergone two adaptive radiations and have at least survived 5 mass extinctions, and one of them being the Permian Triassic extinction event, or known as the Great Dying, which scientists estimate that killed about 96 through 98 or 99% of all marine life. And it's very fascinating because sharks made it through. And we could see this through the families that were created in the first shark radiation during the Carboniferous period, which resulted in 45 families. And then the second radiation happened in the Jurassic period, so around the dinosaurs. And in the picture I provided, we can see the great diversity, or as we learned, it could be the different types of speciation. For example, the basking shark and the great white shark are the same, but they they've adapted to their own niche. For example, the basking shark adapted to feeding on plankton of the ocean, while the great white shark became one of the top apex predators in in the oceans. The first paper I reviewed talked about phylogeny clarification from 2 lamnate shark fossils that showed development of serrations during the Neogene period. The authors studied these teeth fossils and used the rock bed to approximate the age of those fossils, and they studied the morphology, especially the serrations, and compared it to other fish taxa during that time of the bed formation. And they concluded that there could be a possible relation to clade of large zoonotic sharks, which would be the lineage to megalodon, or a relation to smaller limerned sharks, the mako, due to the gradual transformation in serrations in the successive beds. So, for instance, the Isures hastalis fossils of teeth showed no serrations in the late Miocene age, and then in the successive bed, they found weakly serrated teeth, and in the bed on top of that, they found strong serrations similar to Carcharodon carcharodon, or present gray white shark. The next paper talked about a fossil that was essentially a new species called Carcharodon hobeli, is how I pronounce it. Sorry if it's like that. Which showed a transition. So it was a transition between Carcharodon hastilis and Carcharodon carcharodon, which further explained the origins of the great white sharks. And the methods were that they correlated marine sediments using strontium isotope chemostratigraphy, and then using the specimens from that, they analyzed it using isotopes of 230 uranium and 235 uranium, and they also compared their physical characteristics. And with the new fossil that they found, which was Carcharodon hobeli, based on the age, it was a new species since it was never found in other beds. And C. hubeli, sorry, showed progressive number, increased number, sorry, in and coarseness in serrations. And it also showed a presence in weakly to moderately serrated teeth in their other fossil deposits that they studied that were related to Carcharodon hobeli. So as the previous paper mentioned, it also showed a progressive increase in serrations in progressive beds found where those fossils were found. And the last paper I reviewed was talked about the evolution of shark teeth, especially the structure, which are the saw teeth considered, alongside the uprise of marine mammals such as seals and sirenians, and further separated the idea of Carcharodon and Otodus lineages. Otodus being the lineage of Megalodon. They did this by studying a fossil collection that contained both Carcharodon and Otodus fossil teeth from a German Eocene bed. And they also studied alongside that marine mammal fossil record from that same bed, the German Eocene bed, and studied how the relationship between predator and prey could help them aid the understanding of their behaviors. And based on that fossil evidence, they said that Isurius hastalis developed serrations in early Paleocene, called by them the first serration wave, where Otodus or the Megalon lineage evolved a few serrations later. And so this already separates the great white shark from the Megalodon. And serrations were the saw blade tooth that I talked about, resulted from adaptations to feed on emerging marine mammals such as seals and sirenians. So essentially, the authors explained that the saw blade teeth that we see now in the great white shark adapted from the emerging marine mammal emergence, since the mako sharks, which were the the great white shark's ancestors, were smaller, so they primarily fed on small animals such as fish and small mammals, not as big as seals. But the authors explain that during the emergence, the great white shark ancestors began to adapt to the available food that was for them, available to them. Sorry. So in summary, we can talk about the evolutionary history. Oh, sorry. Before that, I wanted to talk about the future study. So the future study for all these papers talked about having complete sets of fossils. So we can think of complete jaw sets such as the Carcharodon hobeli, and to connect lineages and understand how the amazing evolutionary history of sharks came to be. Okay, now summary. So it's very difficult to piece the evolutionary history of sharks, and to understand their 450 million year old history. It's very hard to find the evidence supported if all you find is teeth. But new discoveries such as the fossil teeth of Carcharodon hobeli, scientists are better understanding the lineage of not just the great white shark, but other animals. And this also showed us how improved methods to understand Earth's ancient life history. So, for example, connecting fossil records of prey and predator to understand why behaviors or adaptations occurred. And these are my references. The highlighted references show the articles I reviewed. And thank you for listening.